Good evening and welcome to the Laughing Monkey Music Show. Jizzy, welcome back to the show, man.
Hey, hey, what's up?
Hey, hey. So, new album? You got a new Love Hate tour? Let's dive
Uh,
in.
yeah, the new record. Well, I already gave it to you, so you've already had
Yes, you did.
advance sort of notice. Punk Rock Fiesta, and yeah, I mean, what are your initial thoughts?
I think it's a really good album. I'm not just saying that. I was really from top to bottom, a good 8 songs. 8 songs, interesting. It's right under a half hour. Nice, tight.
That was all I could afford.
Are you gonna say it wanted under a half hour because no one cares anymore? But you could have something like that. Now,
Well, I mean, 8 songs is still an achievement in this crazy world.
and there's no filler though. It's like literally 8 good songs, which I'd rather have than 12 songs and a bunch of crappy ones.
Yeah, I mean, it gets harder and harder to actually make records these days. I mean, I my engineer that did this record, Andy, he did my last 2 records, and I was just having a conversation. How's business? And he goes, it's not good. People aren't making records like they used to now. They're being more selective. It isn't just a given that a band is going to go in and do a record and then tour and then come home and then do another record and then tour. You know what I mean? Times have changed.
Well, and it feels like when COVID ended, everybody had time stop. Bands that hadn't done albums or whatever, and they were home. They saw their families for a couple months, and they got tired of them, and they went do an
They
album.
wanted to leave their
They
families.
wanted to
Yeah.
leave their families again, and they was on tour again. But they also wrote probably some of the best albums some of these bands have written in a long time.
Well,
Um,
what else were you going to do?
they could, you know what I'm saying, but they still had it. But that being said, you kind of felt like that might have been the beginning of a wave. It's already
Mm.
stopped. That was everyone had their first good album out, and then there's not a lot of people doing second. Like you doing this album, I was very surprised at that quickly because there's not a lot of people doing an album within a couple of years of each.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah. I mean, I always I do bitch about it. I mean, you've talked about my YouTube channel and how I kind of go off on certain aspects of the business that, kind of
which for the
suck.
record, I enjoy your wit, just so people know the book. Yep.
Well, certain aspects of the business suck,
Yeah.
but you can't give up. You can't, for me, I have to go through the process of writing new material all the time. And it's sometimes it's agonizing and it makes me crazy. But at the end result, it validates you as a musician and it keeps you going. You know what I mean? It's like a shot of B12, you know what I mean? And it really does help you through the process.
Well, it's interesting because like, not everybody, not all the musicians and your peers actually that are on the road feel the way because they're like, oh, if I do it, I record it, no one's going to want it. It's not going to be worth it in the long run. The effort, you know what I'm saying? They're not inspired enough because the end result isn't as big a payoff. Like for
Well, you
you,
can't go into it
the
with
music is your
that.
payoff for you, is what it is.
You can't go into it with that thought because then you're gonna chump it off, or you'll write shitty songs. You know what I mean? Because
Mhm.
your head won't be in the moment. I mean, you really writing songs. You really have to go old school. You have to get yourself away in a room with a guitar by yourself. Turn off the YouTube. Turn off the Instagram. And it's a process. You know what I mean? Led Zeppelin used to do it. They would go to some shack in
Mhm.
Wales for 6 weeks, and they'd come out with the seeds of physical graffiti. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
you have
The
to, and
Black
it gets
Mountains.
harder and harder because everyone's so addicted to technology, and so yeah, it some things have changed a lot, but as
Mhm.
far as the organic process of songwriting, it has not changed.
Do you think, and this is actually a good comparison, you're very prolific, and is you leading it with your music, your book writing, obviously you tour with QR, and now you have a love hate tour coming up. A lot of bands when there's more people, it feels like it's a slower machine. Like people say to me, like, your podcast, you've got like, I don't know, whatever, how you keeping them up? They say, well, because it's just me, I do everything. Like when
Mm.
you're the only person doing it, sometimes it's easier to stay on task and lead the charge. Do you feel that's
That's the
the same with
beauty.
you?
Well, that's the beauty of the YouTube channel for sure. I mean, because you actually, I will give you kudos. You were the guy that helped me a couple of years ago trying to
Yep.
figure out all, because technologically I was quite challenged.
You
But
got
I
it fast, and
figured it
it's quite a
out.
payoff.
Well, but I figured it out. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being on YouTube, being on camera, some people are very natural at it, but
Hmm.
it took me a while to look and be able to
That's
act
a
like.
skill.
The cool thing
People.
about it is that, I mean, I've written a bunch of books, and so YouTube is the natural progression into the modern age, if you will, because you get to write stories, and they're basically short stories, a lot of the episodes,
Right.
where I'm not ranting about Spotify or whatever, but they're short stories. And so you write them, you perform them, and then they exist. And yeah, as a one man operation, you don't have to really depend on anyone,
Right.
and it's a cool thing is I that's what I like about it. I mean, you don't get paid much. People that have three or 400,000 subs, I mean, they make good dough.
That's been real good dough.
You know what I mean? But then it's a full time job. Then it's basically, you know, them walking around all day, you know,
Too
being
much.
on camera, and it's just, I don't know. That seems like I right then I'm Obi-Wan Kenobi, looking at the dark side.
Do
And
you think it's sorry, do you think do you feel content burnout however? Like do you feel the pressure because like you haven't had something on because like say you're touring, you have a busy tour schedule, you're writing an album. YouTube has to be fed the monster, otherwise you could start losing your subscribers. Like you almost could like lose your momentum a little bit. The
oh, of
beast wants
course,
to eat.
of course.
Do you feel that like burnout? You're like, oh, last thing I want to do because I've gone through periods where I'm like, last thing I want to do, like I'll do a bunch of them and just set them off and do nothing for a while because it just gets too much.
It's not burnout is a lot of, you hear that a lot with anyone that does channels. They burn
Yeah,
out, they run out of ideas. You need to somehow re-inject yourself. um I mean, with me, with the QR, I tour all the time. I mean, I've got 6 weeks off, January into February. That's the longest time that I've had off in years. You know what I mean? And I'm already doing
I was gonna say
shit.
you're not taking it off. You're gonna do
Well,
something
I'm
with it,
I'm getting this record ready. There's a bunch of
right?
stuff, and getting the tour ready. I'm doing a
Hmm.
tour starting in March in the UK for the 35th anniversary of my first record, Blackout in the Red Room. So there's you know what I mean? All the nonsense that comes with that.
Right.
T-shirt, merch, work permits. I mean, the gamut of stuff. So yeah, when you're working all the time and you're on the road all the time, you pretty much have to focus on that, on the gigs, because the
Hmm.
gigs are important. That's the thing is you can't
Yeah.
shit. You can't. You have to. At least I have to focus on one thing at a time. If I'm gigging, I'm gigging. If I'm doing music, I'm. You know what I mean? I'm doing that.
Right.
I can't kind of juggle a bunch of
Cross. You
shit.
can't cross pollinate.
I
Yeah.
can't. I wish. I mean, I'm just not that sophisticated.
Let's talk about the tour, which is interesting. So, like, obviously, doing the QR thing, and Alex is a booker, and Alex is a lot of that stuff. You're more just being the artist. You're focusing on keeping healthy, working your voice, doing that stuff. But then when you do the Love Hate thing, you're kind of wearing a bunch of different hats. The last thing you're doing is getting on stage. You're working on everything else, doing it this way.
Well, but that
It's a
that is,
different challenge.
yeah. But the thing is when you do it combat style like I do over in the
Hmm.
UK, it's just, yeah. I'm the tour manager. I'm the singer. I'm the guy that goes and gets coffee. You know what I mean? I'm the guy that
Right.
because that's just the way it is. I mean, Pretty Boy Floyd, Steve is like that. He does
Yep.
everything. It's Bullet Boys. I'm sure Mark does everything. It's
Yep.
just the way it is. You don't, when you're at that level, having a tour manager and just roadies, all that stuff chips away at
Yeah.
your bottom line. So you end up having to do a million things, but it's worth it. It's worth it too. It's because it's fun. Going to the UK is always fun. The fan base there for me has stayed loyal to me because I've basically gone there almost every year, you know,
Really?
without the COVID nonsense. I've been going there since by myself since 2003. So it's
Oh
over 20
wow.
years.
I wasn't aware of that. I know you went over there a lot. I was not aware of how much because it does feel like you can go over there and you do have a strong audience. Is it so strong that like just not even a consideration here for any Love Hate Here shows?
Um,
Because you don't have the same band. I know you have a band there that works with you. You
yeah,
kind of and
I'm fully
they're
Chuck
good.
Berry.
Yeah, they're good though. You have a great, Oh,
I
nice.
used the guys on my record are guys that I've used on all my records. Dave Moreno on drums, Chili. He
Yeah.
did all the other records.
Okay.
It's just some.
Good band.
It's kind of. I've come to the conclusion that when it comes to recording music, I'm kind of a dick, and I need. I have that Steely Dan mentality. If you farm shit out to your drummer,
Yeah.
you know what I mean. He's got a studio. He's a studio guy. Chili's a, he actually is a studio
Right.
musician. He plays with people, but he's got his own home studio. So he's in house and he's self contained. Darren
Mhm.
Householder on guitar. He's got his own little thing going. He's done all my records. We know each
He,
other, so we can
he riffs. He's
communicate.
good.
Well, and we can communicate on FaceTime, and I don't have to be in LA, you know what I mean? Like I did on the first record. On the first record, the Frontiers record, I drove to LA and I stayed at his house, and it was a little gnarly driving home at 3 in the morning back to
Yeah.
Vegas and stuff, and
Oh,
trying to avoid, people in the middle of the street when you're going 80 miles an hour. Um, so now it's FaceTime. So FaceTime requires more trust.
right.
You know what I mean? Someone's going to do something and you're looking at them, but you're doing it by camera. So you have to trust. There has to be more trust and confidence in what those people are doing. And they did a great job. When I first approached Darren with this record,
Yeah.
he heard the demos and I don't think he quite got the vision because as you say, this record is different from the
Well,
other
especially
two
compared to the other
records.
one. The other one was the last one was very night and day, I think, to this one
Well,
though.
more, I guess you'd call traditional rock.
Right. Yeah. Zeppelin kind of.
Yeah, I suppose. But this one, he heard it, and I could tell he was having mixed feelings about it. Because I was just trying to cheerlead. I was just going, dude, you're going to be a punk rock guitar player now. And he goes, well, I don't know if I can be a punk rock guitar player. I don't know if I can do this because he's like a musician's musician. You know what I mean?
Right.
He's got that. He can play diminished ninth chords and all that weird jazz shit. So I was trying to convince him that he could dumb it down and make it heavy, and trying to give him some, listen to some Ramones, listen to some Suicidal Tendencies, listen to some Dead Kennedys. He's going, Dead Kennedys. You know what I mean? I was just trying to give him a
Yeah.
general kind of a template of what was in my head. You know what I mean? Think Sex Pistols, don't think Eagles. You know what I mean? And it took a little time to sort of make it happen, but he did make it happen. I
That's
mean,
interesting.
when you live with something and it keeps you up at night, and I'm uh, humming licks into a tape recorder and sending it to him. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
and so he's bombarded by all this chaos, and we come to an agreement like, play some stuff, or I'll be in the studio, play some stuff. I was a little bit of a guide, like I always am on stuff. I'm a little bossy when it
But that's
comes
what I said at
to,
the beginning. I just think you are the lead of all your projects, and that's how stuff gets done so fast. It gets done.
well,
You
some
need a
people
captain.
would call it bossy.
It's your album. It's your album. It's not anybody else's name on that album but you.
Well, at the end of the day, you are correct. In the end of the day, the only one that's going to, if it sucks, they're all going to be looking at me.
Right. Right.
That's the thing. I mean, but Darren did some very creative work.
Yeah.
We worked together, and he did some cool stuff. And he played as a guitar player. You got to learn to play in and out of the song. You can't,
Hmm.
like certain lead guitar players. Well, in the Eagles documentary, they talk about how that one guy, the hell was his name? Not Joe
That,
Walsh,
that
the other guy,
not Felder? Does Dan that?
Felder.
Yes.
They said that Felder would send him tapes of songs, but he was noodling all over the whole thing, and they were just going, "Well, where do we sing? Where's the space?"
Well,
So
yeah.
as a guitar player, you have to learn how to play in and out. You know what I mean? As a drummer, you have to learn how to set up choruses, with fills, and it's songwriting. You know what I mean? You have to set up the journey. I don't have to tell Chili as a drummer, you're coming into a chorus. You have to let people know you got to do a fill because he knows.
Right.
So
How are you doing that though?
that's kind of what we did is now Darren being on this third record, we have more of a natural relationship as far as what goes where, you know what I mean? And how
Well,
things complement one
yep.
another. That's all. When I'm in hired gun mode, I have
Right.
to continually prove myself all the time. I can't really have a bad night. I can't kind of chump it off, you know, and blame the sound man or, oh, I only had 2 hours sleep or, you guys don't know what I'm going through. You know what I mean? All that matters is that gig and those people and the end result. Because I was thinking about it. I saw this Kid Rock interview where he was talking about how expensive it is to tour.
Okay.
And, $100 to park, $100 to park your car. You know what I mean? $14 hot dogs,
Hmm.
$50 t-shirts. I mean, and then the ticket, whatever that's going to be, 600, $1,000. And it just, you, it's getting harder and harder to give people their money's worth because it's getting more expensive. And I remember when I was doing these Rock Never Stops tours when I was in Rat, I mean, there were 4 or 5 bands on a bill. There was, there was Rat, there was QR, there was LA Guns, there was Warrant, or there was Dokken, or Cinderella. You'd see
Hmm.
5 bands for whatever the ticket price. I mean, that was damn good value.
Right.
You know what I mean? And and it's getting harder and harder. It's getting more and more expensive, and touring is it's just getting a little out of hand. I mean, when you're paying $100 to park your car, it sucks.
I think one of the smart things that QR and a lot of bands are doing, and Piercy and a lot of you guys always tour together and overlap is the casino run. The casinos are smart about it too because that's really their audience. Mohegan is my home base.
Right.
I can go there and I can park for free because they want you to stay all night. Like so, there are ways. You know what I'm saying? And they've got a lot of restaurants in there, so you're
Mm-hmm.
not actually at that venue. So your money goes to them. It's another angle, but it makes it more affordable for somebody who just wants to go in and see the show because they can park for free.
Well, and
And they're
and
just
yeah, they want you to gamble.
right
Obviously, they want you to spend money, but they also give you the environment.
to
You
do
know
it.
what I mean? You're all in. You go eat at their restaurant. You go
Hmm.
here to get the drinks. You go see the band, and basically you don't have to go anywhere. So casinos are definitely. I
If
mean,
you're
we
smart, you don't want
love.
to spend the money. You don't have to. Like I'll go there. I don't gamble. I work for my
Well, we
money. I'm like,
love. Everybody loves playing the casinos. I mean, I speak for the Great Whites and the.
no, I agree with you.
Uh,
It's you guys do well there.
well,
You know.
it's very comfort. It's a good comfort zone for musicians because
Hmm.
you're staying in the same place. And if you want to go get a drink after the show, which I don't, I just want to go to bed. So I
Right.
can just go to bed. You know what I mean? And people want to party, they want to party. If they don't, they can go to bed. And you're right there. It works out good. And usually the rooms are pretty awesome.
Yeah,
I mean,
I've
to
heard
play
that.
in.
No, yeah, well, and also to sleep in, and the sound's generally pretty good. I mean, it's generally a good overall
Mm,
package. That seems to be
generally,
generally.
I've
I'm sure
had a
there's
couple of turkeys.
bad one.
But
Well,
generally, you are correct. So that's, yeah, for
I'm talking, yeah,
traveling
from
bands like
if
us,
the
that's why we all like to play the casinos.
band comes to town and they're not playing, whatever, you need to go see them because it's you're paying for things. It costs a lot. They're not going to be coming through all the time. And the less you
Well,
come each
and
time,
everyone's getting older, and there's going to come a time. I mean, my wife went and saw Hall and Oates And I mean, literally, people were in wheelchairs and walkers. I mean, that their
Yeah.
audience is whatever 5 to 10 years older
Hmm.
than my audience, and my audience is getting up there. So I mean, there's a there's a window of time for bands because the fans are getting older and the musicians are getting older. People are going to have to retire at some point, you know, and so you should definitely see bands
Yeah.
now while you
Well, you can. But the thing is, but also you have an energy show. Air Supply is older than you, and they can keep going.
yeah, I guess he can still sing.
Oh,
So,
he can. He can. Yeah. I've talked to them. They can still,
it can be done. That's the thing
but they're
is
not bouncing around like you.
well,
You're,
even that can be done. It's not some supernatural, thing that you just have to stay in the game. And staying in the game means all the disciplinary shit that as we grow older, it gets harder and harder to do, but it can be done. I mean,
yeah,
you just have to keep your chops up and for me it's always been important because just it's all you have at the end of the day. You know what I mean? You're only as good as your last gig. So it's important to be good.
well, but future will see like now you're in a good spot. You have a good gig with QR, a good steady gig. It's a good performance. I think I've seen you a couple of times doing it, and it's each time it's entertaining, regardless of knowing the songs. I get tired of it. I just enjoyed the band. It's kind of a fun night. And I'll see you again. But doing your albums and the channel and books, it feels like you're always kind of keep moving. You want to keep diversifying. Do not lock down anymore, like to just one thing, you know?
You just have to keep doing something. You know what I mean? Sitting on the couch, there's a very alluring uh, thing about once you start sitting down on the couch, you getting stoned on super weed and watching Netflix. It's just
Yeah.
it's a trap, man. For a musician, you have to always kind of keep 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 going on the treadmill. You got to keep going. At least I do. I mean, some people don't feel that way, but I process because it's been very closed and insulated, and it's just kind of me, myself, and I. And now I have to kind of talk about it and sell it. I guess
In a
pitch it.
way, but you said, and I think actually your last one, because I do, like I helped you with your channel. I actually watch almost most of your things. It was the last one you were talking about with the album. Everyone says it's their best album because it should be your best album. It's the best album you did at the moment. But now as a
Well,
fan, I think this album stands up there with, I thought Hell and the first Love Hate are like, to me, are side by side. No offense, people, because it was just because at this point you're still coming out such strong songs. I'm not
uh,
saying one's better than the other. I'm just saying quality wise, like they're just as good songs coming out. You know what I mean? So this one stands up there with them. I'm still getting used to it. I would put it like those two, and this one like a little here under because I'm still learning the songs.
uh,
Like tonight on the way home, I was listening to it. I'm like, oh, I didn't hear that before.
it's
So
different. It's definitely. It reminds me kind of my early love hate days before when we did Blackout in the Red Room. We weren't thinking we need a single, we need an anthem, we need a ballad, we need, you know what I mean? It was very stream of consciousness. It was songs written in this period of time, captured, the Sunset Strip. I mean, it sounds cliche, but it's
no, but
exactly what we were living at the time. We were out of control. And the songs reflect sort of the out of control vulnerability of we could have the best gig we just played in our life, and then on the way home we get hit by a car, which actually happened. You know what I mean? So I mean it's that very hanging by the seat of your pants thing and
right,
and vibe and stuff. And then that so I when I hear some of these songs, I kind of hear that raw energy
yeah,
of playing music and not giving a shit what people think, because those are always the best songs. You know what I mean? I mean, you want to be good and you want to write the best songs you ever wrote. And of course, quality matters. But at the end of the day,
But
you want to write for yourself. You're not writing for Frontiers Records.
but you want to balance it. You don't want to sound pretentious, and that's one thing you always take the piss out of yourself too. You don't want to be too pretentious. You want to capture the energy, but you don't want to be over the top. But you want to do it good, and that's the fine balance. Because some bands will do a great song, they get the songs sound perfect, but there's just something missing out of them, you know. And I think that's the fine balance of like
Hunger.
it could be, and writing the perfect song, like replicating their other stuff, and you're like, oh, it sounds just like it, and it is, and it's a fun album. But I'm like, it's not the same like with some people. And that's why this being a different album than the last one is good because you're not trying to copy yourself, but it has the same energy and I think the energy that Love Hate when they came out, and that's
I
like a lot
think
of bands back then.
it's got more guitars in it. It's very guitar heavy, and the
Yeah,
guitars and the vocals are sort of competing against each other. And it's high energy, man, and it's different. But I think people that dug the love hate stuff and kind of dug the fact that we were different, you know what I mean, and weren't just like
totally different.
all the normal kind of cock rock bands that were there at that time. You know what I mean? They were more formulaic, whereas Love Hate was more, was kind of, we were an acquired taste in some way. We
Mhm.
were heavy, but we were different. You know what I mean? And that
Even
helped
your
us.
voice, no one heard your voice before. Like I can't compare you to anybody.
Uh-huh.
Like your voice is just, you know, I
Uh-huh.
don't think at that point when Love Hate came out, no one had heard a voice like yours.
And no one ever will. No, I
But
just, anyway,
it's the originality.
punk
It's good.
rock,
It's a good.
punk rock fiesta, man. It just, it's now that I can listen to it and I give it to people. Oh yeah, you know what I mean. It's up to the rock gods what happens. You know what I mean, it's done. My child has been born, so the rock gods decide what happens to it. Does
Right.
it does it get a lift, or does it, you know what I mean? Does it get a blabbermouth mention? Does it get a meh? Who knows? I don't know.
I
But
could probably think of people that are going to say good and bad things as it is. It doesn't really matter because it's a good album, and people listen to the bad things. You know that.
well,
You know,
it sucks that people say a lot of bad things. You know what I mean?
100 people like it, and 10 people are going to say something bad about it. You're only going to
They
give
should
it five of
just
those bad.
appreciate. People should appreciate that artists or musicians, whatever you want to call it, still give a shit enough to want to, you know, put in. You know what I mean? To put in, and in this climate of,
Yeah.
Spotify and people not buying music and having to sell it as merch and stuff like that. It's a tough world out there for, especially for young artists, because they don't have a legacy to fall back on. You know what I mean? And they're
Yeah.
struggling.
I don't know how they're going to do it. I mean, but people are always going to complain. They complain about me and my channel. I'll hear it. I'm like, I
I'm
just got
I'm
you.
one of the top complainers about you.
Oh, yeah, my channel.
I, I just don't care for the cut of your jib.
That's okay. Anyway,
The people that dig it will dig it, and
yeah,
I mean, I dig it. Of course, I dig it because I just made it. It was
right.
just born, so I get to listen to it. And it's fresh, and it's not, my love hate tour I'm doing in March. It's the 35th anniversary. 35 years since Blackout came out in 1990, and a lot of people weren't even born yet. I mean, it seems so distant. It seems so Charlie Chaplin silent movie era in a way. You know what I mean? It's a crazy
Are you ready
thing
for it?
to think about. Yeah, I mean,
Vocally?
it'll be fun. I mean, when I go to the UK, I get mobbed by biker dudes that weep. These tough dudes covered in tats and muscles, these biker types, but there's the music means so much to them that they just break down, and it's a heavy responsibility. You know what I mean? Because
That album is
because they really,
groundbreaking.
really, they can't express how they feel because it's such an emotional thing. Because when that record came out 35 years ago, it was a big part of their
Mhm.
lives, especially in the UK. I mean, maybe not, people different times, but whatever.
I
But
remember it.
it means so much that, it's a crazy heavy thing because they're holding onto my shoulders and they're shaking me. You don't know what this means to me. This record, you don't know what it means. You know, I do. I do, So it's a big responsibility. And so, yeah, and hopefully they'll dig the new record and they won't, kill me.
Are you so you do the whole album? Obviously, I think you said you do the whole album. Are you gonna throw some extra songs at the end, maybe that
Well, I'm
aren't?
going to do a bunch of songs. I mean, I'm going to play that record in full, but I mean, I'm going to play some other stuff as well. I mean, it's going to be a long ass set,
I don't know.
but
Some people do it anymore. Some people, they say they do like tour with an album. They literally do the album, and that's it. That's why I'm asking you.
oh no, no. Some people, well, no,
You know what I'm
I
saying? I'm being very clear to people.
there
Like
won't be
what?
an intermission, if
Right.
that's what you're saying. So people can go out and get popcorn. No, it'll pretty much it'll be a longer set,
Right.
but it's
Okay.
challenging. I mean, these songs weren't easy in 1990, and they're certainly not easy now. So
And
it's
people can
it's
buy tickets still, right?
oh yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I do good over there. I do good over there. I That's why I go over there. And plus, you go to the UK and the distances are a couple of hours. You know what I mean? The US is a much bigger, we're going to Denver or we're going to St. Louis or going to here. You're talking a lot of it's a lot harder map to do as a
Okay.
guy in a van, driving around. You know what I mean?
Right.
So the UK is very compact in that regard, and it's cool for me to be able to do.
Where can people buy the tickets for that?
Well, at the gigs, at the venues
Okay.
in the UK. I mean,
But sometimes you can buy them early, get them ahead, lock them in case they don't sell out.
well,
This is part of what I'm trying to sell you
that
show, Jizzy. Work with me here.
no, I
Like,
get
what?
it, but that's not really that's up to the rock
It's not like
gods.
that.
That's up to the venues, and some people advertise and some don't, and I do it on my Facebook and my YouTube, and
Kind of what we're doing right here. We're talking about it.
and people don't buy tickets the way they used to. They don't buy advanced tickets the way they used to. They basically buy them pretty close to the show.
Yeah.
The record's called Punk Rock Fiesta. It's on Kenyon Records. It's a small label that's just started up, and they're very enthusiastic, and they love Jizzo, so I love them. And we're gonna make CDs, and we're gonna do the streaming, and we're gonna roll the dice and get the reviews. And I hope people dig the record, and I hope people like you they listen to it with a little bit more depth. You know what I mean? Because it's
Yeah.
not dig it, and some people go, all right, I get it, I get where
I
he's
like the
coming
other
from.
album
But
better, but it
there's some
sounds good.
humor. Well, no, because there's some humor, dude. There's some rapping and there's some stream of consciousness shit. It's different. I mean, there's some tongue in cheek shit, humor. It's funny. There's some funny
Hmm.
lines, man. I get to kind of get on the mic and do some Lenny Bruce, some shit talking, and that's kind of why I dug part of it is just because it's different. And sometimes when you do stuff that's different, you're taking people on a different journey, and you know dig it, dig the vibe, dig it. It's not going to be your normal, you know stuff that maybe you
Right.
think you're going to get. It's something different, so check it out.
Yeah. I want to thank you. So the single comes out when? Uh,
The 7th of next
okay.
so February 7th, the first
February
single
7th. We don't
comes
know
out.
when this is going up, so it could
And the
be.
record, yeah, the record comes out March 1st, basically. So we're getting all our ducks in a row, and there'd
Is
be a
there gonna be a?
video, you know what I
Yeah.
mean, the normal. We'll do
Is
the
it?
normal stuff.
Will be like a website link or on your Facebook
Yeah, of
to
course.
buy it? Like
All that
you're gonna post
all
all that.
that
It's
shit
coming,
is
right? Coming.
all that stuff is being worked on as we speak.
Just so people know, so they're like, "Where will we get the album at?" Because they're gonna ask. The comments are on the. You know what I'm saying? So just put it out there. Look for it. You'll
Well,
announce it on your page.
you're the first one, so basically everyone else, there'll be more structure.
Aware.
You know what I mean? So you wanted to be the first.
And I one of the first. You got the first.
Yeah,
You
the
got you got
first
for
and
me.
the worst.
Yeah, yeah, I've heard that too. Jiz, I want to thank you, man. This has been great. People check out his YouTube page too. Subscribe to it.
Yeah, J
You
Pearl
know,
TV is the YouTube channel, and well, yeah, I mean, it'll all my Facebook site and all that stuff, and it'll
the
be
links will be under my show. That's something people don't do. I put all the artist links under my show. I don't care about my
and
own.
I'll be busy pimping for the next few weeks, all the good stuff. So yeah, thank you for the
Thank you, man.
chat, and I
Always,
guess
always
I'll
the
talk
same.
to you when I talk to you.
You will. All right. Take care.